Okay, we're going to proceed to part B of exercise 1.4. The server core has restarted after being renamed. We'll log in as the administrator. And it comes up right away. So step 2, we're going to type in ipconfig/all. And if you've had previous operating system classes, you'll be very familiar with that. The ipconfig command is used a lot. So we can scroll the command line window, and here we get the ipconfig. Here's your link local IPv6 address, IPv4 address, if anybody is familiar with that. That 169.254 should be a class B, a PIPA. That's right. Automatic private IP addressing. That means that there's not a DHCP server available. So, and that's actually the answer to one of the questions I just gave you. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start the net shell interface, which is a little bit different than just the regular command line. So you type netsh in, and it will bring up a new prompt. Now you're kind of in a different console when you're doing um, configuration. If you hit the question mark, it's going to give you information about what's there. And if you want, again, question mark piping to more should work as well. It does not. How about that? So the piping to more does not work everywhere. This gives you all the commands that are available in the net shell. So feel free to try that out, and you can actually find additional information about each command by typing the command and then followed by the space and a question mark, which is very cool. All right, so we're moving on to step 4. We're going to type in interface, which if we look from the list, interface changes the netshell interface context. That's what this is called, changing the context. So we go to interface. Oh, look at that. In future versions of Windows, Microsoft might remove the net SH functionality for TCP/IP. Microsoft recommends that you transition to Windows PowerShell if you currently use NetShell to configure and manage TCP/IP. How about that? So things are changing. I imagine that the new um, textbook that we'll cover, specifically Server 2012, will reflect those changes as well. But for the moment, the legacy commands do still work. All right, so we type in question mark again to see what the net sh commands are, and there's a lot of them. Sorry, the net shell, this context, interface context, these are the commands. Next, we want to type in IPv4, which changes the next context. Question mark, again, just relating to the IPv4, you can add, delete, dump, etc. there. Now, this is going to be a rather lengthy command, so you want to make sure you get it exact. And we'll see if I even have an error as I type it in. Additionally, where you have the greater than and less than signs, that's where you want to put in the specific numbers that are related to it. So, set address name equals, and then we're going to go scrolling back up and see what the name was from ipconfig. It says Ethernet. So um, in the lab manual, it says in quotes local area connection. What we want to do is we actually want to put in Ethernet. Ethernet source equals static. That's going to take it off of the DHCP. Address equals 192.168.1. Remember, the other two servers that we had configured would have been 101 and 102. I'll make this .103. Mask equals 255.255.255.0. That's the default subnet mask of a class A, or sorry, a class C, which is what the 192.168 is, a private class C. And then the gateway equals, again, the IP address of your router, 192.168.1.1. And GW metric equals 1. So that's what you need to type in. I'm hoping it works. About to hit enter. And it looks like it did. So we can now type in exit to return to the command prompt. Lost my place in my book, sorry. And then now we're going to do ipconfig switch all again. And as we go up here, there's Ethernet 192.168.1.1 is the gateway, 255.255.250, 103 IPv4 address. So our configuration worked. If for some reason your configuration does not work, check to make sure that you've got everything entered exactly. And remember that where it says local area connection, that's going to be whatever the name of your network adapter shows up as when you do an IP config. So finally it says to do a shutdown/L to log out. If you remember, to restart we did a switch R for restart. This is switch L for logout. And there you go. However, I really didn't need to log out because I'm going to quick do part C here rather than doing a whole other video, because this is pretty quick and easy. So we're logging in. So now this is enabling remote administration of the server core computer, because a lot of times, you know, what I'm showing you here, I'm going very step by step and it's very slow. People who do this sort of configuration all the time can just type it out and they hammer it out quickly, and it's very efficient, very productive. But sometimes you need to be able to administer from a different computer. So you need to set a firewall exception to be able to do um, remote administration. And that's what this is for this server core here. So the command prompt, I'm going to do advanced firewall. All profiles, settings, remote management, enable. We'll see if I got it all typed correctly. It says OK. So there, we've just set the firewall to be able to allow for remote administration. So there's your initial exposure to configuring server. For Lab 2, we're actually going to go through many of these steps again in a more specific manner to be able to run through and learn how all the functions of server work.